Have you ever wondered why narcissism seems to be everywhere today? From social media influencers to corporate leaders, it seems like self-obsession has taken over. But why? And how did we get here? In this video, we're diving into how narcissism took over society and breaking down Narcissistic Personality Disorder, NPD, to understand its impact. We'll explore the roots of narcissism, how it became a cultural phenomenon, and what it means for our future. Let's get started. First, let's define what we mean by narcissism. Narcissistic Personality Disorder, or NPD, is a mental condition characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a constant need for admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. People with NPD often believe they're superior to others, have difficulty handling criticism, and may exploit relationships to boost their own self-esteem. It's important to remember that NPD isn't just about being self-centered. It's a diagnosable condition that affects about 1% of the population. But here's the key. Not everyone with narcissistic traits has NPD. Many people may exhibit narcissistic behaviors occasionally, especially in a world that encourages self-promotion. But NPD is a deep-rooted disorder that goes beyond vanity or selfishness. So, how did narcissism become so prevalent? One major factor is the rise of social media. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok encourage us to present idealized versions of ourselves, measuring worth through likes and followers. Social media acts like a mirror, constantly reflecting and amplifying self-image. The more validation you get, the more you're rewarded with dopamine, reinforcing narcissistic tendencies. These platforms are designed to keep us hooked, and the easiest way to stay relevant is through self-promotion. The more likes you get, the more likely you are to keep posting content that fuels your ego. It's a cycle. But it's not just social media. Narcissism has always existed. Ancient Greek mythology even gave us the story of Narcissus, the man who fell in love with his own reflection. What's changed is how society now rewards these behaviors on a much larger scale. Alongside social media, we've seen a cultural shift toward extreme individualism and entitlement. The Me generation of the 1980s embraced the idea that self-interest and success at any cost were virtues. Today, this mindset has evolved into hustle culture, the constant drive for personal success, often at the expense of others. It's all about grind now, shine later. But the downside is that it encourages narcissistic traits like entitlement and the need for constant recognition. In the media, we're bombarded with images of celebrities, influencers, and entrepreneurs who seem to have it all. And what do they all have in common? The spotlight. It's no surprise that many people aspire to replicate that image, feeding into the cycle of narcissism. Compare this to earlier generations, where community and collective well-being were valued more than individual achievement. The focus has shifted from we to me, and it's having profound effects on how we view ourselves and others. But what happens when a society leans too far into narcissism? The consequences are real. Studies have shown that narcissistic behavior can lead to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. When your sense of self-worth is based on external validation, whether it's likes, promotions, or fame, you become dependent on others to feel good about yourself. And when that validation fades, you're left with emptiness. Narcissism also affects relationships. People with strong narcissistic traits often struggle to maintain deep, meaningful connections because their focus is on themselves. This can lead to isolation and conflict, both personally and professionally. So, is there hope? Can we reverse the trend of narcissism in society? The good news is yes, awareness is the first step. By recognizing the signs of narcissism, we can start making changes in how we engage with the world. One way to combat narcissistic tendencies is to practice gratitude. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, take time to appreciate what you do have. Another key practice is building empathy, actively trying to understand others' feelings and perspectives. Also, consider limiting your social media use. Step away from the curated highlight reels and focus on real-world connections. The more we detach from the need for constant validation, the more grounded and connected we'll feel. While narcissism may seem like it's everywhere, we have the power to change how we interact with it, both as individuals and as a society. By prioritizing empathy, self-awareness, and community, we can push back against the rise of narcissism and create a more balanced, meaningful way of living.